G'day, my name's Cannon Fodder, and welcome back to Vermintide 2. We received a free update on the 14th of June to the Chaos Wastes. We got the first among demons, Belakor, added to our expeditions, with two new curses that are relevant to him. Shadow Skulls, skulls that spawn out of thin air and will track and stun the player. Absolute nightmare if you're in the middle of a horde or fighting a boss. And Shadow Totems, which will pop up around the map that they are on, which will spawn enemies with varying degrees of difficulty. You need to destroy the Shadow Temple, Shadow Totems, and there's not a whole lot you can do against the skulls. Once they hit you, that's kind of it, but you can either shoot them down or swing at them with a melee weapon to nullify or dodge their effect. We also got a new map called the Temple of Shadows, Shadow of Temples, Temple of Shadows, with a new boss called Shadow Lieutenants. It is worth noting that I will provide links to pertinent websites in the description down below, as well as a new altar on maps that are under Belakor's influence, called a Shadow Locus, which you'll need to disrupt to actually gain access to the Temple of Shadows. Obviously, please note that if you do not successfully clear the enemy spawns as a result of disrupting the Shadow Locus, you won't unlock the Temple of Shadows. They're usually run-ending. We also got a whole bunch of new boons and weapon traits throughout maps. Some of them are actually really, really cool. Have really enjoyed the addition of some of the new boons. Others, it's alright. There's a few boons that have moved to become weapon traits, just purely as a result of their what they do. So things like Manan's Tempest, which is chain lightning upon critical strike, has become a weapon trait. I hope that that's actually moved to all weapons. Like, you can get that on all characters rather than just some. Which makes sense, because it was a little overpowered. There is also a new Franz Lerner's Chronicle, which has some interesting lore tidbits in regards to everyone's favourite witch hunter captain, Saltspire. But again, I will let you all read that for yourselves. My first impression was, oh my goodness, the difficulty tweak. Jumping in completely blind and attempting a Shadow Locus off the bat resulted in a party wipe. We were not prepared at all. But upon a second attempt, having gotten our head in the game and, for lack of a better term, got good, we managed to successfully clear the waves of enemies and then defeat a Shadow Lieutenant, unlocking the temple. Managed to clear the temple on the first try, which also does have its own set of Shadow Locus. It's either 3 or 4, all protected by plague rats. Again, they spawn several waves of enemies, and the difficulty is dependent on what kind of enemies it spawns. I can definitely say from experience that Beastmen are by far the hardest, especially if they spawn multiple banners, which, for those of you who aren't in the know, banners not only decrease the amount of damage that Beastmen take from you, but increase the amount of damage that they give. So, which, if you're trying to fight, 4 or 5 banners at once, the amount of damage you output under the influence is minimal to none. I've enjoyed the difficulty tweak. It has been frustrating at times, but fun. And I've definitely enjoyed a lot, or at least some of the new boons that I've come across. One of my favorites by far is a temp health boon, which the law of diminishing returns applies to it, otherwise it would be completely and utterly overpowered. But every time you take a hit for 10 damage, it'll spawn a little green orb that gives you 5 temporary HP, which is really cool. It was really, really fun, and if you take high overheads, it's all of a sudden you're just popping temporary HP everywhere, which, while not as good as actual HP, does help when you're in a bit of a pinch. Especially, one of the maps we had was a slow damage over time, and a couple nights back, we had a dwarf ironbreaker that was basically, as he ran, spawning a couple little temporary HP orbs every so often, which myself as the Sienna was really grateful for, because it meant that my overcharge wasn't ticking up and I wasn't, blowing up every 10 steps. But I have, like I said, been enjoying this immensely, both with randoms and with set groups for various runs as well. It has definitely been something I think that the game needed. And eventually this update will go the same way of all the other updates, where it just feels like, oh god, not again. Or similar feelings to that, where it's just like, oh yeah, we've done this a million times, this is easy. But right now, this is a much needed difficulty tweak that I'm very much enjoying, and I hope we continue to see more innovations from Fatshark along this line for Vermintide, as well as continued support once the next game comes out, which would be really, really good. Other than that, that's it from me today. If you like what you heard, then please like, comment, share, and subscribe. And like I said, links in the description down below. We'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.